My name's James Coppert. I'm going to really quickly, because I normally do this in a 4-hour minimum lecture, I want to provide the answer why I believe we can save a fortune on things nationally like children's social care, and from that as well save a fortune in terms of drug and alcohol services, mental health services, the police and the prison system, and all those other things. We could get rid of billions that we're spending unnecessarily within children's social care, reduce the people coming into social care, and actually lower the threshold to meet more families' needs. And when I say this, I lecture nationally in universities to community groups. I also provide training in this subject that I'm going to talk about. And I present this at the start, and I think people are quite sceptical until I provide the evidence. And not one person yet has actually challenged me on my hypothesis of this. And I am going to provide evidence in terms of the results of the evidence, but I'm going to try and do it in under 10 minutes. Like I said, I do it in 4 to 5 hours as a lecture. So if you want to know the sources, either look them up, or if you contact me, I will give you the peer-reviewed studies that back up what I'm saying. But before I do that, I just want to give you two things that are too much of a coincidence not to be a coincidence. So this isn't a peer-reviewed study, this is my own experience. So 2 years ago, I was sat in a room with 15 people that were in foster care. Out of those 15 people in foster care, 12 of those young people, 12 had ADHD diagnosed. 2 of them were already on the pathway for diagnosis, and the last one said that they had their traits recognised by foster parents and school and were about to go to the doctors for diagnosis. Now that's an extraordinary coincidence to have that amount of people within foster services. I've also been working over the past few years with young people that have offended and are working with services to support their needs. Out of those young people, every single one of those young people had ADHD diagnosed or was on the pathway for diagnosis. Now, this is a huge coincidence that 2 of the high kind of threshold services have that many people with ADHD. But are we streamlining our services to meet their needs? Are they ADHD friendly? And the comorbid traits that come with that, such as sensory processing disorder and the high rates of dyslexia, dyscalculia, etc., etc. So already we can see that we need to start changing our services to work and adapt with them. Then I'm going to add the fact, and this is where science and peer-reviewed studies come in, 80% of people with ADHD have genetically inherited it from their parents. Another thing that we're kind of ignoring. So when we're getting these children and young people in, are we also supporting the parents in understanding themselves as one, or quite often both, as ADHD people often meet each other and connect in those ways. Won't go into all that as well, but it's there was a children separated at birth in America as twins, placed in adoption with middle-class parents, tested for their parenting, etc. Both of those children still developed ADHD because it's genetically inherited. So there are also other factors and statistics that are quite shocking. So if you've got ADHD in the UK, you are around 17 to 19% more likely to have attempted suicide, because you're so much more likely to have depression and anxiety as a direct result often of how you're treated and experiential throughout your life. We also have high rates of people being either perpetrators or victims of domestic abuse within that. And that's for 2 factors. So the first of one is because by the age of 10, we are told off 100,000 times more than a neurotypical child. That makes you a people pleaser. You're more likely to attract abusers. Also rejection sensitivity dysphoria. 100% of people with ADHD have that, which makes you a magnet to those types of people. But also, and this one's not from a study, this one's my own hypothesis just from putting lots of evidence together, is with more single parent families, you often have someone with ADHD having meltdowns, and although they can't help their meltdown, there may be a 6'2" young man who had a meltdown, and parent is scared and doesn't know how to deal and manage with it, and so they often have their needs met. They get what they want, so they can't help the meltdown, but the response of that aggressive behaviour has their needs met, so they learn that that is a way to respond, and they take that into adult life. So first of all, domestic abuse cases, depression, anxiety are a lot higher within the ADHD community. 1/4 of all drug and alcohol service users from studies are shown to have ADHD diagnosable traits. That means they've looked at the diagnostic criteria, although they can't diagnose, they've recognised that 1/4 of all drug and alcohol service users, if they went for diagnosis, either have ADHD already or would be diagnosed. That's the same for the prison system. And if I said that about any other condition, there would be outcry. But 1/4 of all people in the prison system have ADHD diagnosable traits. Add to that as well, issues with money management, financial difficulty, more likely to be having support and benefits for employment support. All these other factors, start to play into effect of these people that are coming into our services over and over again. But there is a way to manage and deal with that, and it would save our local authorities and nationally a massive amount of money. So Carl Hill at the University of Colorado did a 40-year study, 40 years, and what they found was by putting in diagnostic markers early, so putting in support, understanding and diagnosis early. So I would propose putting people, having extra training with early years support within schools to start recognising, screening people with ADHD, putting more money into diagnosis early would reduce. What he found was, and this will blow your mind, for the ADHD community with drugs and alcohol with early diagnosis, 50% reduction with early diagnosis. We're having issues with drugs and alcohol. The ADHD brain is prone to that by drugs and alcohol, but just by putting in early diagnosis, that reduced that enormously. He found that they were more likely to stay in education, less likely to be excluded, more likely to go on to further education, less likely to be involved in risky behaviours, teenage pregnancies in teenage years as well. They were also more likely to have employment. They scored lower on the disability factor. Their parents were more likely to stay together with an early diagnosis, but they're also even less likely to have thrombosis and other health conditions as a direct result of the stress. Because let me explain why. First of all, before I do that, not only for them, but for their children as well. All those things will reduce for the next generation, because understanding yourself is really important. If at a young age you understand you've got ADHD and there's certain things that you find difficult, there's certain expectations in the neurotypical world that are placed upon you, being on time, being able to remember everything, being able to be organised, being able to do all these things, sit still, listen to the teacher and behave. They're impossible to do with ADHD, so you're going to need help and support. But if you can't do it because you don't know you've got ADHD, you are either just a troublemaker, or you view yourself negatively as an idiot or useless. Why can't I do what everyone else does? That negative labelling has a massive effect, not only because of the whole mental health effects and issues that come onto that negative labelling, but also you have no motivation to change and to put things in place to support yourself. Because if I'm just stupid and an idiot, then what's the point in having support to help me? Do you see what I mean? Whereas if I go, actually, I've got ADHD, I need this to support and help me to succeed. That's a very different mentality and a very different frame of viewing your life and self within. So it also helps other people understand that actually, when you've told me to be quiet in class and concentrate, I have been trying to concentrate. You might recognise and reward me for trying and play support rather than telling me off for purposely thinking that I'm not trying. Just as one tiny example, but has a massive impact throughout your life into adulthood. We could save a fortune. Carl Hill's demonstrated that we have early diagnosis. It changes life outcomes enormously for those generations and the next generation along, and the next generation and generation after that, if we continued this study. So by saving money in education, we would lead less support in schools. Proofs would be a lot smaller and have been able to help more young people of a different level of need. We would have less school exclusions. We also know truancy is massively higher amongst ADHD because at the moment, especially the young diagnosed, it's seen as a negative place to be. They're more likely to be in school, they're more likely to succeed. People with ADHD actually have amazing creative brains. If we can engage them in the education system by getting diagnosis and supporting them to go in higher education, we probably have more inventors, more creative people, all these really positive things just by getting early diagnosis in. We would have to spend less money on mental health support because of the lack of negative labelling. We would have to spend less money on mental health support because of depression, anxiety, and all those other health issues that come along with not being diagnosed and that negative labelling of self and others. All these things, less criminality. We could reduce the prison population potentially by 1/4. We would have less people, the police would have less work to do and be able to be involved in more community policing. Children and social care, I believe, would have a massive reduction. We could lower those thresholds and save an absolute fortune and be able to work more with more young people for longer and families and be more successful in supporting them. It isn't a coincidence that so many people coming into our services have either ADHD or ADHD diagnosable traits. We need to help get them on the diagnostic pathway. We need to help their parents get on the diagnostic pathway. In Sweden, you take your child and they automatically test parents at the same time and siblings because it runs in families. Here, we take our 10-year-old and then we've got a 5-year-old that then will have to go on the pathway for another 2 years at the moment, minimum, to get diagnosed. And then parents might come to one of my lectures and recognise all the traits in them, even though they think they're coming for their child because no one's told them that it's genetically inherited. We could save a fortune. Anyone disagree? Come at me. I'm happy to take the challenge. So far no one has. And thank you for watching.